So there are two types of modules we can basically use inside of Lindy. One is a trigger and the other one is an action, right? The trigger is obviously the one that will receive the email. So we are going to choose that. And I'm going to assign a filter to this trigger. We can use different properties of that email, but we can also use restrict by attachments. So I'm going to do that, only process emails with attachments. And then I'm also going to filter, let's do body contains invoice, or the body contains something like receipt or something, right? That will help me to make sure that most of the emails that come through here will actually contain an invoice. So let me replace this action with an actual condition to make sure that, hey, let's have another look on the actual file. So go down this path if this is in fact invoice. And then I like to add a separate path, a second option for the LLM to decide. This is not an invoice, right? And then for the no invoice step, I like to end it here. The way to do this is simply add a do nothing action, which basically stops there, doesn't consume any credits. And that's that. So, all right, we now know that we have an invoice. What we want to do here is probably extract some of the information from the actual invoice.
So can I ask a question on this? So
Please.
like when you insert an agent, how should we think about like the utility of the agent? Are these individual things are called nodes, right? The email
Yes.
receipt, condition, AI agent. Okay. So the AI agent node, what obviously it can do many different things, but generally speaking, how should we think about like the functionality of that node? Because that's pretty critical, right? That's the AI agent node is going to be in most of what you build in Lindy. So what exactly does that node do?
Yeah.
Sorry if that's a question.
No, not at all. The cool thing about AI agent nodes is that you can attach skills to that agent. So if you click here on the bottom right, the little plus icon, you can actually add all of the actions we have available to that agent, right? So if you want this agent to send a reply to that email, you could do so by giving it that specific skill right here. And then click done, and then it's capable of sending an email back. Now, it also has this prompt field. The way to think about the difference between these nodes here is that the AI agent is basically capable of doing many things, while the action steps are capable of doing one thing particularly good, right? So the condition step is really good at deciding for what condition is right here. The AI agent step would be able to decide, hey, this is an invoice, this is not an invoice, so we could use it for the same thing. But the condition step is designed to do that thing specifically. So I try to use that whenever I can. I use the AI agent mostly if I think it's not as deterministic in the result I'm expecting, right? So if I have multiple options for that agent, he would be able to send an email. He would be able to look up an entry in a database. He is supposed to maybe I don't know, update something somewhere else. All these kind of things. If I'm not sure that every time the task is running, this one thing should happen, I can add an AI agent step to it. Does that make sense?
I think so. I think so, yeah.
Cool.
Thanks.
All right. So I'm going to remove that send reply action. We actually don't need that. In this instance, I'm going to use that AI agent step only to analyze the actual invoice. I've prepared this prompt here, which will check for all these fields on the actual invoice. So it's going to look up the vendor, the date of the transaction, the invoice number, the payment status, all these kind of things, and will let me know about it, right? That's the only thing here. Now, the next step would be to actually, we want to make use of the invoice at that point, right? So what I like to do here is I use the download attachment action, which will take the message I just received. Let's put it to auto and then put the attachment as well to auto and the file name. Yeah, that's fine. So this will download the attachment. One thing, Jake, that's going to be important here as well. You already see that little sign in here. So this is called another exit condition. That's what I meant with, hey, we could use these condition steps here, but we could also let an AI agent decide for different condition paths, right? So I could actually go ahead and add multiple exit conditions. So the behavior would be basically the same. In this instance, I'm only going to need one, which is as soon as the task is complete, we go to the next step, right? At this point, we have the invoice. So what we want to do now is I have a Google Drive folder, and I can pull this up real quick. There we go. I have a Google Drive folder, and the way this is organized is by month, right? I'm going to delete that. That was just for testing. So inside of the folder, if the current month folder is already available, we can go ahead and use that. But if not, we will have to create the folder. Let's actually search for the right folder. Find folder. There we go. Hey, and guys, stop me if I'm going too fast, right? I'm kind of running through this because I know we have limited time here. All right, so I'm searching, and this is another cool feature about Lindy. You can basically prompt all of the fields or most of the fields available inside of Lindy, right? So we could either go ahead and search, set it to manually, but instead we actually want to prompt it to search for a dynamic value, which is, hey, we're looking for the specific folder name, which is invoices minus current month minus, oh, and we're referencing the transaction date basically, right? So we have an invoice, we look at the transaction date, and then we try to find the folder for that month of the transaction. And if it's available, we can use that. If not, we'll have to create it. So if the folder is available, go down this path. But if the folder is not available, go down the other path. So if it's not available, we will likely have to create the folder. So let's do that right here. Google Drive, and then should be create folder. Oh, there we go. Create a folder. And I'm going to prompt it up here to use the current month and year for this. I am going to use the parent folder bookkeeping, which is the main folder of my bookkeeping. And then I'm going to set the name to the format we discussed earlier, right? Invoices minus month minus year. And we want to set this to manual. So only create the folder if the file name is unique. Yeah, that makes sense. Cool. So that's if the folder is not available. If the folder is available, we can already go ahead and upload the file. So let's upload file, load. And here again, I'm using a certain formatting for my file name, which is month, day, company name, and the number of the invoice plus file extension. And this is just me talking in plain English, basically. I'm using placeholder language here, but you could describe it any way you want. And I've added an example to it to make it more obvious for the LLM to decide. This is how it could look like, right? Cool. The file URL is going to be automatically pulled from the download up here. So that's okay. And as soon as we created the folder, we actually want to connect it to the upload file, right? So we have these two paths. One is the folder is not available. We create the folder and then upload the file. Two is the folder is already available and we upload the file to the folder. Now, one thing is missing here. I don't know if you guys noticed, but we are not actually uploading it to the folder we created or we found up here. We're just uploading it to the Drive folder, which is a bit of a limitation. So it would be great if we had another field here where we could set this dynamically because we might need to create the folder on the fly. But since that's not available, what we can do here is simply move the file, right? So let's go to Google Drive and then move a file. Right. We set this to auto. No, sorry, we set this to manual and then select the upload file ID. There we go. That's the file we want to move from the parent folder. And then we set this to prompt, and I simply tell it to use the folder ID defined earlier, which is up here. Does that make sense so far?
And it just knows when you say earlier, it knows that you're referring to a previous step in the workflow.
Yeah, I mean, that's if you're lucky, yes, but we could actually go one step further and add an AI agent step here that has something like this. Find the folder ID of the create folder or find folder action. We need to extract this, emit the ID and exit, right? So this will try to find whatever we did up here, either created a folder or found a folder, and it will take that ID. And now it's pretty clear for this step that, hey, we know exactly what ID to use here once task is complete.
Okay.
Cool. So now if we look at it, let's see. We receive an email with an attachment. We double check if there actually is an invoice in there. We have an agent analyze the invoice. Then we download the attachment. We find our current bookkeeping folder for that attachment. And then if the folder already exists, we upload the file directly. If not, we first create the folder and then upload. Then we have an AI agent that tries to identify the folder ID we created up here. And then we move the file to the right folder. Now, there's one thing missing here, which is great. I now have, hopefully, the file inside of the correct bookkeeping folder we want to use moving forward. But I would love to have an overview of the information inside of the invoice as well as the location of the file. So let's add another action, which is going to be append row for Google Sheets. And I should already have a bookkeeping sheet right here. And I can simply show this to you. This is the sheet, right? No magic here. I'm gonna pull that up. So we've got a date, we've got the transaction date, we've got the vendor, the amount, categories, etc. Right? Some notes, and the drive link, which is going to be important for me because that way I can simply use this table to identify all the sheets, all the invoices, and use the link to click on them if needed.
I have a quick question here.
Go ahead.
For the Google Sheets there, do you independently make these columns beforehand and then it will fill it in without you having to prompt that information in Lindy? So for example, can you make unlimited amount of column titles and then it will just know what to fill out?
Exactly. That's exactly what I did. I can go ahead and I don't know, add another column here, random poem. And this is actually going to, at some point, let me see, show up right here, right? Which is pretty cool. Let's see what the agent does with that. I'm not sure at this point, to be
Yeah.
honest. But yeah, that's the way to do it. You simply add a column to the actual sheet. I make this easy for myself by describing it a little bit, right? Entry method, email or manual, drive link, a hyperlink to the stored file, right? Is the tax deductible, yes or no checkbox? Stuff like that makes it easy for me to not have to go in here and actually prompt each of those fields, but I can simply leave them on auto and the LLM should be smart enough to know what to put in basically, right? So this is all cool. One last thing that might be missing here, and I'm going to turn this on, is I don't always receive all my invoices via email, right? Sometimes I get a WhatsApp with a receipt or something. Sometimes I take a picture. I need a way to add invoices, not via email, but in multiple ways. And the cool thing here is you can simply extend this now. If I right click and then add a new trigger, I could, for example, add a message received and simply attach it to the condition up here. And this way, I am able now to send invoices through the Lindy chat, which is pretty cool. Now, there's only one issue with that because we're using the download attachment from the Google part here, which is not going to work if we send an attachment via the chat box. Does that make sense?
Why not? Why would that work?
Because we're not receiving an email, right? So this is referencing the initial email we basically received, but there is no email yet. We're sending it through the actual task. So let me show that to you.
But could you not just upload the image or file or whatever through the, oh, there's no Oh, yes, there is. Yeah. Could you not just upload it?
Totally, but I can show you what happens. And that's also good to do every now and then. Just give it a try. So I'm uploading the file and let's see what happens. Okay, this is an OpenAI invoice. This is in fact an invoice. Cool, the condition was met. The agent says the task is complete. And I think now the issue is going to happen. Right, there we go. So we got an error. The error happens because we uploaded an invoice here, but this action is related to Gmail attachments,
That makes sense. Yeah.
right? So what we can do here is actually add another condition step that simply checks, hey, did the user send the invoice via the chat, or did we receive that via email, right? And I've prepared the path for that as well. Go down this path if the invoice came via the Gmail trigger, or go down this path if it came through the user. And I like to name my conditions to keep my sanity. Right, so we download the attachment. And if it's a user message, we can simply go to the next step because we don't actually have to download it. We already uploaded it through the chat, right? So let's give this a try. By the way, what am I? Yeah, Sonnet. Cool. New task, try again.
Hey, so Marvin, if we have like questions as we're building these or whatever, are you because like yesterday I had a question about one of the things, one of the little Lindy's that I made, and I sent it to Ethan. Should I be reaching out to you instead?
No, Ethan is your implementation engineer, so he's responsible for you guys. You can always ping me. I don't mind. I'm happy to help. But yeah, he's putting aside some time for you guys to help you out.
And what's the best? Oh, actually, that wasn't really a very sensible question. Never mind.
All right.
I'm just trying to figure out like what obviously the best way to learn and get better and more proficient at building these things is just by doing them, by
Yeah,
trying them. Um,
100%.
and as we run into issues, in my case, I'll reach out to Ethan, Alan, maybe as working with somebody else, I'm not sure. But if there's a certain sort of task that I would want to create a Lindy to accomplish. Could I chat with Lindy before and be like, hey, I want to create a Lindy that does this, and it will sort of give me a starting point or sort of a rough outline for how to create that Lindy. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Or
I love
create a
that
Lindy.
I love that you're asking this. This is actually one of the big things, the big projects we're currently building. So at some point you'll be able to do exactly that. Simply type in the idea for the agent you have, and
Exactly.
then get the first version out of that. This is gonna come. It's currently in the making. I cannot give you an ETA publicly yet, but yeah, let's chat afterwards.
And in the meantime, if we have an issue, then just reach out to the engineer or something.
Exactly. Reach out to Ethan, like you especially. You can always reach out to us, Alan and me. But yeah, if you have ideas, I'm happy to jump on a call and jam with you as well.
Alan, do you work with Lindy or are you a client?
Yeah, I figured there was a confusion. I actually joined a couple weeks ago.
Oh, my bad.
Sorry.
Sorry.
All good, all good. I don't think we said that at the beginning of the call.
My bad. I kept sorry.
No problem, all good. Also, if you do reach out to support at lindy.ai, that's pretty much coming to me. So I'd also be happy to help. But yeah, you have a ton of resources.
You joined a really cool company, man.
All right, let's have a quick look on what actually happened. So we uploaded the invoice. It realized, yeah, that's an invoice. It realized, hey, this came by the user and not by the email. So we skipped the download attachment. We tried to find a folder. It was not available. So we uploaded the file and then moved the file to the right folder and then appended a row in the sheet. So let's see. We got a folder right here. We got the invoice inside of that folder, which is nice. And hopefully, yeah, there we go. We got information about that invoice, OpenAI, the amount, category, usage, invoice number, tax deductible, the actual link to the file. Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's how you build a very simple version of a bookkeeping agent. Now, what I added to this, and we won't have time to go through this, but I added a way to actually analyze the data inside of the sheet and give me on a regular basis some information about my spending, right? So the way to do this is you add a recurring trigger. And that's the cool thing about these workflows right here. You can add as many triggers as you like to one workflow. And I'm
Oh,
gonna set it to, sorry.
I just said that's cool. Yeah, you can add a recurring schedule.
So let's say, I don't know, every day at 8, this is going to start and it's going to get the spreadsheet we are creating, or let's say maybe every week on Monday, something like that. There we go. Someone's joining now. We're getting the sheet, and then we can add another agent who will, and I don't have the prompt right now, but analyze the sheet and give me info on my spending. Obviously, you want to tell it exactly what to do here and how to analyze this. And then I could do something like, hey, send me a Slack about that basically every week so I know exactly what I'm currently spending on. Send general message, something like that, right? You'd have to define all the fields here, but the cool part is as well, if you put this into a loop right here, right? We are going to do something like it's going to analyze the data on the sheet. Then it sends me the analysis via Slack. And if I reply to that Slack message in the same thread, it's going to go back to this AI agent who did the analysis and can answer questions via Slack, which is
Oh,
pretty cool because all of a sudden you have a conversation going on about your spending.
that is